Hi, welcome to video number 7 of this series. In this video, we will discuss curtain wall and stair. Be sure to check out video description for more information about the building that we are using for this lesson. Also, there are files associated with this video. Be sure to download them and have them handy for reference. Lastly, feel free to pause and rewind if you feel that the video is going too fast. Without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start with this large window that you see on the screen right now, and it is 12 feet wide by 12 feet tall. The sill height for this window is 2 feet above level 1. We certainly can make a window family for this, but perhaps the quickest way is to use the curtain wall system. Let me show you how it's done. First, let me orbit to the other side of the building so that you see where the storefront system is going to go. The storefront is going to go on this wall over here, and the sill height is going to match with the window on the right as well as the header. Technically, what we're about to place is a window, but the family that we're going to have to use to place this window belongs to wall category. I know that it is confusing, but I just want to make sure that I highlight this fact before I move on to the next step. For the next step, I'm going to go to level 1. On the properties palette under type selector, you see basic roof generic 9 inches. It is letting us know that the roof is still selected on the other view, so I'm going to click on an empty space to deselect the roof. Let me zoom in closer to the plan to get a better view. The storefront window is going to go on this wall here. To get to the storefront system, we're going to go to Wall under Architecture tab. And on the type selector, if you scroll all the way down, there's a subcategory of wall called curtain wall. There are 3 families under this subcategory that are loaded as part of the default, which is curtain wall 1, exterior glazing, and storefront. Now, don't get too hung up with the name. It is all technical. Keep in mind that the point of these videos here is to quickly learn the software from beginning to end. If there are areas that you're curious about, take note of it. Then after you finish all of the videos, you can come back and revisit the node and do some further investigation on them. Just know that they are made up of the same combination of elements. Each of these families give you different types of flexibilities as far as how you would use them in a different situation. Now, these are families, so you can edit type and duplicate it as many times as you want. I know I'm ranting, but in my experience, beginners get confused about curtain wall, so I want to be as clear as I can. At this point, if you're still confusing about what is categories, families, and types, I want to suggest that you watch my other video on understanding Revit elements. For our purpose, the best family to use is curtain wall 1. Now we're going to shift our attention toward option bar. Since curtain wall belongs to wall category, most interfaces will look the same as wall. So as far as height, I'm going to set this one to unconnected. I do not want this to attach to any level, so unconnected. Instead, I want the height of this storefront window to always be at 12 feet, so I'm going to change from 9 feet to 12 feet. We don't need to set the location line for curtain wall system. I always have change selected and there will be no offset. One thing that I might change here, depending on the situation, is join status. Sometimes I would change it from allowed to disallowed. I'm not going to get into any details on which situation here. For our purpose, it makes no difference one way or the other. So I'm going to leave it at allowed. Earlier, I also mentioned that the sill height for this storefront system is going to be 2 feet 0 inches from level 1. So on the properties palette, we need to make sure that the base constraint is level 1 and the base offset is 2 feet. To confirm that we're done with everything, which we're not, we're just going to move the pointer outside of the properties palette. The reason why I said we're not is because there's one more thing that we need to change, but it's not so obvious, so I want to make sure that you pay attention. First, I'm going to show you how to place this curtain wall the wrong way. I'm going to place the curtain wall inside of an existing wall. I'm not going to worry about the width of the storefront because we can always come back and change it. One thing to note, you will see that the glazing is near the interior side of the wall. I'm going to hit spacebar once to flip it to the other side and then second click to confirm. Right now, my curtain wall is 7 feet 2 inches wide. I can make that change later. But you see that we get this orange highlight on the wall and the warning on the bottom left. It's letting us know that we have wall inside of another wall. If I hit escape twice to get out from this command, you'll be able to see a piece of glazing inside of the wall. That is the curtain wall that we have just placed. Now let's have a look at it from 3D view. Let me orbit. You see no difference there at all. Now that is the wrong way. So I'm going to go back to level 1 and select the curtain wall, make sure the curtain wall is selected, and delete. This time, I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. Under Architecture, Wall, we have everything all set up on the option bar. We have everything all set up on the Properties palette. But under Edit Type, there's one option that we need to check. Understand that any changes made at type level will stay at type level. So the next time you place curtain wall 1, you will not have to do this again. Under Automatically Embedded, there's a checkbox here that you need to check. Then I would click OK to confirm. At this point, if you confuse about the thing that I said on category, family, and type, I want to strongly recommend that you watch my other video on understanding Revit element. Now I'm going to repeat the same step as we did before. I'm going to place this curtain wall inside of an existing wall. And again, I'm going to roughly place it and then flip so that the glazing is toward the exterior side of the building, and then click again the second time, and you see that this time we don't get the error message. When we go back to the 3D view, the glazing is there. For the next part, we're going to be on west elevation. From west elevation, we can clearly see the curtain wall that we just placed on level 1. If you recall from the picture that we saw earlier in this video, there are 4 bays to this storefront system. So in order for us to add the Mulion, first we have to have the grid. Under Architecture tab, there's a current grid button over here. Go ahead and click on that. How it works is that if you hover over the horizontal edge of the glazing, you get a vertical grid. And if you hover over the vertical edge of the glazing, you get a horizontal grid. In our case, we're not going to need any horizontal grid, so we're just going to add vertical grids. And if you recall again, we need 4 bays to this storefront system. What I did just now was roughly place vertical grids so that I have 4 bays. Next, I'm going to use constraint to make sure that all 4 bays are of equal sizes. So I'm going to use permanent dimension for that. But before I place dimension, I want to mention that I like to start from internal grid, then go to external grid, then come back to internal grid, and then finish my dimension. The reason why I'm doing that is because if I start from the external grid, along the edge of the external grid, not only we have the outline of the glazing, we also have the outline of the wall. And sometimes if you're not careful, you might select the edge of the wall by accident instead of the edge of the curtain wall. By starting our dimension from internal grid, the next dimension we place is going to prioritize grid instead of wall. With that said, I'm going to start dimensioning the internal grid, then go to the external grid, then come back to the internal grid, and keep going until I complete my dimension. Now I'm going to equalize this, and all 4 bays are now equalized. To add Mulion is very easy. But before I do that, I'm going to hit escape twice and then click on the dimension and then delete it. And since I want to keep the constraint, I'm going to click OK on this dialog box. Now, under Architecture tab again, there's Mulion to the right side of current grid. If I click on that, it's going to give us option. We can add 1 Mulion at a time per grid line, or we can add 1 Mulion at a time per segment of a grid line, or we can add it to all. I'm going to select all grid lines. And when you hover over a grid line, it's going to highlight all grid that exists on that curtain wall. Click once, and Mulions are added to all grid lines. Let's have a look at it on 3D view. Now that it is complete, I realized that the width of this storefront system is still incorrect. So we're going to go back to floor plan and make that correction. Before we place that first dimension, I also want to mention that we're going to run into the same situation where the edge of the wall and the edge of the curtain walls are coplaning. So when you hover over this line here, make sure that the tooltip said curtain wall shape handle. If it doesn't, you're just going to have to hit tab on your keyboard until it says that. Actually, let me zoom out and start over. Select grid line C, then carefully select the edge of the curtain wall, then go to the other side of the curtain wall, and I think I'm going to leave this dimension open, which means I'm not going to dimension to grid line E. Click once on an empty space to confirm the location for the dimension. Modify to get out from the dimension command. Next, I will select the curtain wall and the 17/6 inches will turn to blue and ready for us to manipulate. And the width is going to be 12 feet, so 12 and enter. It appears that I made a mistake, so I'm going to refer back to the PDF files, and the width for this storefront system is 16 feet instead of 12 feet, so we're going to fix that. The total distance between grid line C and grid line E is 23 feet 0 inches. So if you take that and subtract 16, we're going to end up with 7 feet. So if I want to center this storefront on this wall, this dimension here need to be 3 feet 6 inches. And if I modify this existing dimension to grid line E, we're going to end up with 3 feet 6 inches on both sides. Let's take one final look at this storefront window on 3D view before we start working on the stairs. It looks good, so we're going to go back to level 1. I'm going to type ZE for zoom extent. Then click once on an empty space to deselect the storefront system. Let's tidy things up before we move on to the next steps. So I'm going to close all inactive views and get rid of this section here. And get rid of this dimension here. Now, the stair is going to go into this area, but perhaps to get a better picture, we should be on the second level. So the top landing starts here, and we want our first step to start here. So let's get an approximate dimension between this line here to the end of this wall. That is 13 feet. In section view, we want to be able to go up 9 feet. So we're going to have to do some math. Now, this is a residential project, so we are allowed to have stair run as narrow as 10 inches and risers as high as 7 3/4 inch. With that in mind, we're going to go back to level 1. To get to stairs command, we're going to go to architecture tab and then stair. You notice that we're in sketch mode again, but this is a different type of sketch mode when compared with floor and roof. I have a detailed videos on how to work with stairs. Click the link on the top right corner of your screen to review that video. I'm not going to get into any detail at all in this video, but instead, I'm just going to do what it takes to get the stair that we want. So under edit type, I'm going to take the 7-inch Mac riser 11 thread as the base. Then we're going to create a duplicate. And the name is going to be 7 3/4 inch or 7.75, and riser is going to be 10 inches. Then we're going to click OK to confirm the name of the new family. We're going to change the maximum riser to match the name, which is 7.75, and the minimum tread depth to 10 inches. Minimum run width, I'm going to leave it at default. And before I click OK to get out, I'm going to change the left and the right support to carriage or open. Once again, details about each of these options, I talked about them on my other video about stairs. Then we can OK out of it. As far as the riser height, I'm going to let the formula on the other dialog box take care of it. But when it comes to tread depth, the value you see here is the minimum. And under desirable riser, this number is calculated automatically. It's going to take 14 risers to get from level 1 to level 2. And for 14 risers, there's only 13 treads. Now, if you think back to about a few minutes ago, we have 13 feet in the run direction. Therefore, each of the treads can be maximum of 12 inches. So I'm going to change this value here from 10 inches to 12 inches. And as a result, we'll end up with the stair that is less steep and therefore more comfortable. On the option bar, I want to set the location line to the left side with no offset. The actual width, I'm going to leave it at default because I can change it later on an instant level. Then I will select intersection or the endpoint of this wall and then drag it all the way up until I run out of tread. Before I click on check mark to get out, I'm going to select once on the stairs and change this width to fit the room. Once you get close to the wall, you will feel that the stair will snap to the wall automatically. Then click to confirm the new width of the stair. One last thing before we get out. Since I do not want any handrail attached to the stair, on the ribbon, I will go to railing, and on the pull down menu, I will select none. Then I can click OK to get out from this dialog box. I'm ready to just click on the check mark to get out. Now let's take a look. It starts at level 1 and ends perfectly at level 2. Next, I'm going to go to 3D view. And then I'm going to close level 2 and level 1. I'm going to view tile so that we can see both views at the same time. And the command for that is WT. Now let me pan both views so that we have the best view of the area that we want to look at. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a 3D sections that will allow us to view the stair area. With 3D view selected, on property palettes, we're going to scroll down and find section box. We're going to put a check mark on the section box and we're going to be able to see the section box in 3D view. Select the section box and we're going to see the control grip. Now if I move this control grip far enough that it intersects with the building, it's going to create a 3D section for us, like so. Now as you can see, this wall projects past the stairs and that's not good. So we're going to fix that by going back to section 1, select on the wall, and we're going to change the top constraint to unconnected. Now this wall is free to move up and down whichever direction we want. In this case, I want to move it all the way down and tuck it underneath this step. Let's zoom in to have a better look. Now it's no longer protruding past the stairs. Let's zoom in on section view. Here you will see that this door is conflicting with the stair. So we're going to have to fix that. The best view for us to do that is floor plan. So I'm going to go to level 1 and we're going to go back to single view mode. And the command for that is TW. Let's zoom into the pocket door area. I know that I'm going to have a sink cabinet attached on the wall to the north. And the depth of the sink is 2 feet 1 inches. Since we have room here for 3 feet 4 inches, we can move this pocket door toward north 1 feet 3 inches. I'm going to click on modify to get out from the current command, click on the pocket door, then go to the move command, click on an empty space and drag it up 1 feet 3 inches. It looks like I didn't think it through well enough because the cavity went into the north wall, so we're gonna have to fix that. Control Z to undo, and let me pull dimension to see how much room we have. We have about 10 inches there, so I'm gonna click on this pocket door and then move command, then move it up 10 inches. Now let's go to the section view and see what we have. It looks like we're almost there, but if we reduce the height of this door a little bit, it'll clear that conflict. So to know how much we need to reduce, I'm going to have to pull some dimension, And this time I'm using measuring tape instead of permanent dimension. It looks like if we keep the door height at about 7 feet 6 inches, we will clear this conflict. To change the height of the pocket door, we're going to select the pocket door, then edit type on the properties palette, duplicate, and the new name for this one is going to be 30 inches by 90 inches. Click OK to confirm the name and change the height to 7 feet 6 inches. Then click OK again. It looks like we still have a small conflict there, but I can live with that. So I'm going to move on to the door on the left. Most of the conflict that we see here has to do with the casing, which is no big deal. We can always trim the casing, but regardless, I'm going to make this door a little bit narrower to reduce the amount of conflict. With the door selected, we're going to go to edit type, and then we're going to create a new type by creating duplicate, and the name that we're going to give this one is 24 inches by 36 inches. Then change the width to 2 feet instead of 2 feet 4 inches. Then click on OK to confirm. I have a feeling that the jamb side of the door is pulled away from the adjacent wall. I want this dimension to be 4 inches, so let me go back to level 1 and double check. Let me select on the door to activate the temporary dimension. It looks like we have 6 inches, so I'm going to change it back to 4 inches. Click on an empty space to deselect the door, and let's go back to section view and see what we have. I think I can live with this one as well, so let's have another look at level 1. Looks good to me, so I'm going to stop this video right here and make another video. On the next video, we will place component. We will only place a few components just so that we can get a feel of it. Then we will finalize our plan, place them on sheet, and then print them. Even though you're welcome to, if you were just browsing YouTube and came across this video is the end of Revit basic modeling, so you really don't need to watch the next video. I want to thank you all for watching, and if you want to, I will see you soon on the next video.